Karim Al-Masri, a wealthy Dubai businessman, and his elegant wife Layla were the picture of success, until a secret affair with their Filipina maid, Marissa, turned their luxurious villa into the scene of a horrific double murder that shocked the city. Dubai, a city where wealth sparkles under the desert sun, was home to Karim Al-Masri and his wife, Layla. To everyone who knew them, they were the embodiment of success and elegance. Karim was a well-dressed businessman who ran a thriving luxury car import company. His showroom attracted the city's elite, and his name carried weight in circles that valued reputation as much as fortune. Layla, his wife, had slipped seamlessly into the role of the admired spouse. She was often seen at charity galas, dressed in designer gowns, photographed against the backdrop of Dubai's towering skyscrapers. Together, they looked like the kind of couple people envied. Their villa in Jumeirah was the crown jewel of their image. The home stood behind tall walls and ornate gates, with palm trees swaying gently in the courtyard. Inside, marble floors gleamed, and chandeliers glittered above imported furniture. Every detail spoke of wealth, taste, and stability. Guests who attended their gatherings often left with the impression that Karim and Layla lived a dream life, untouched by the troubles that plagued ordinary marriages. But appearances can be deceptive, and the cracks in their relationship were beginning to widen, quietly, beneath the polished surface. Karim spent more and more time away, claiming late-night meetings and business trips that stretched longer than usual. His phone was always in his pocket, and he guarded it with unusual care. Layla noticed his absence more than his presence, yet she kept her suspicions hidden behind a carefully practiced smile. The world believed she was happy, and she could not let anyone see the truth. In Dubai, where reputation traveled faster than any car Karim sold, image was everything. But behind the walls of their grand villa, a storm was already forming, one that would end in unimaginable tragedy. Marissa arrived on a humid evening, carrying nothing more than a small suitcase and the heavy hopes of her family back in the Philippines. She had been hired to help manage the Al-Masri household, a position that promised stability and better pay than anything she could find at home. For Layla, bringing Marissa into the villa seemed like a practical choice. Between social events, personal commitments, and the constant upkeep of a large home, she needed an extra pair of hands. At first, Marissa blended quietly into the background, moving with a respectful distance, never speaking more than necessary. She was diligent, rising early, cleaning with precision, and making sure every corner of the villa gleamed. Layla appreciated her presence. The young maid's efficiency freed her from the smaller burdens of running the household. Marissa never complained, never slowed down, and always seemed eager to please. Karim, however, noticed her for different reasons. What Layla regarded as quiet obedience, Karim saw as innocence and vulnerability. He began lingering in the kitchen during late evenings, striking up small conversations that Marissa could not easily refuse. What started as casual remarks about meals or errands soon shifted into subtle compliments and lingering glances. Layla observed little at first. To her, Marissa was just another employee, a necessary part of her household. But gradually, small details began to catch her attention. She noticed Marissa taking longer breaks when Karim was home, or Karim arriving unexpectedly in the kitchen when Marissa was working. Their interactions seemed harmless on the surface, yet something about the way their eyes met unsettled her. Dubai villas were built to keep the outside world away, but no walls could hide what was beginning to grow within the Al-Masri home. Layla's unease grew into sleepless nights. Karim's late returns and sudden business trips no longer felt like coincidences. His phone, always clutched in his hand, became an object of suspicion. He guarded it as though it held the keys to another life, one Layla was not allowed to see. She tried to convince herself that she was imagining things, that Karim was simply tired from work, but the uneasiness gnawed at her, sharpening with each passing day. One night, as Karim lay asleep, exhaustion pulling him into a deep slumber, Layla seized her chance. Her hands trembled as she unlocked his phone, her heart pounding so loudly she thought it would wake him. What she found confirmed her darkest fears. Dozens of messages lit up the screen, intimate exchanges full of longing, whispered promises, and plans for secret meetings. There were hotel bookings, digital receipts, and photographs she had never seen before. The name attached to them was Marissa. Layla's stomach dropped. The betrayal was not only an affair, it was a humiliation waiting to explode. The maid she had welcomed into her home, the girl she had trusted to manage her household, had stepped into her marriage. Every secret text felt like a blade twisting deeper. The walls of her beautiful villa, once a sanctuary, now seemed to close in on her with suffocating force. To Layla, this was more than infidelity. It was a threat to everything she had built, her reputation, her pride, and the image she had worked so hard to maintain in Dubai's unforgiving social circles. She felt exposed, mocked, and powerless. In that moment, something inside her shifted. Suspicion had turned to certainty, and certainty was turning into rage. The perfect life she had clung to had shattered, leaving only fury in its place. Layla's anger consumed her like a fever that would not break. She replayed the betrayal in her mind over and over. The messages, the photographs, the knowledge that her husband had shared his intimacy with a woman who lived under her own roof. Every time Marissa walked past her, silent and dutiful, Layla's chest tightened with a mix of disgust and rage. Confrontation no longer felt enough. Words could not erase humiliation, and forgiveness seemed like weakness. Layla wanted more. She wanted to erase the people who had torn her life apart. Her plan took shape in whispers of thought that hardened into determination. The villa's garage stored gasoline for the generator, a detail Layla had always overlooked until now. She studied how quickly a liquid could spread across the marble floors, how flames could leap and devour everything in their path. She watched her husband's routines with meticulous attention, noting when he and Marissa were alone, when the house fell into silence, and when her opportunity would arrive. On a sweltering August night, the chance came. Karim and Marissa retreated to the guest room, a private corner of the villa Layla had once decorated with pride. The betrayal had moved from text messages to flesh-and-blood reality, and Layla's fury reached its breaking point. Moving with grim focus, she locked the door from outside, ensuring they would be trapped within. Her hands did not tremble as she poured gasoline along the threshold, the acrid scent filling the air. One strike of a match was all it took. Flames roared instantly, alive and merciless. Smoke curled upward, filling the hallway, as screams erupted from behind the locked door. The villa that once symbolized success had become a furnace of vengeance. By the time neighbors awoke to the chaos, it was already too late. The morning after the fire, the Al-Masri villa stood in ruins. Blackened walls and charred furniture bore witness to a night of horror that could not be hidden, even in a city that preferred silence over scandal. At first glance, investigators suspected a tragic accident, perhaps a faulty electrical line or an unattended candle. But seasoned forensic officers were not so easily convinced. The flames had spread too quickly, and the pattern of destruction hinted at something deliberate. When specialists sifted through the remains, they discovered residues of accelerant near the guest room door. It was a telling sign. Fires caused by accidents rarely leave behind such traces. This detail shifted the investigation from a routine inquiry into a full-scale criminal case. The authorities began piecing together the final hours before the blaze. Witness statements from neighbors described hearing screams, a locked door, and the unmistakable smell of gasoline. Nothing about this tragedy was accidental. The next step was to review security footage from the villa. Cameras mounted around the property revealed what Layla had hoped would remain hidden. Just minutes before the fire erupted, she was seen walking through the corridor near the guest room, carrying a small container. Her calm movements stood in chilling contrast to the chaos that would soon follow. When Layla was questioned, her composure unsettled investigators. She did not cry or attempt to defend herself. Instead, she spoke in clipped sentences, offering little explanation. The evidence, however, spoke for her. Karim's phone records revealed his secret relationship with Marissa, and among the maid's belongings were personal items that connected her to him beyond any doubt. Together, these discoveries painted a clear picture: jealousy, betrayal, and a calculated act of revenge that ended in flames. The trial of Layla Al-Masri drew attention far beyond Dubai. News outlets across the region reported on the case of the glamorous wife who had turned into a killer. In a city where appearances were everything, the idea that a respected socialite had orchestrated such a brutal act was almost unthinkable. courtrooms filled with journalists, and every detail of the scandal was dissected by the public. Layla, once admired for her poise and elegance, now sat in silence behind the defendant's bench, her face expressionless as the charges were read. The prosecution laid out the evidence with precision. They presented the accelerant traces, the security footage, and the phone records that exposed Karim's affair with Marissa. The narrative was simple yet devastating. A wife humiliated, a betrayal uncovered, and a plan executed with chilling efficiency. Witnesses described hearing the screams on the night of the fire, while forensic experts confirmed that the flames had been deliberately set. Layla's lack of emotion only deepened the impression that this was not an impulsive act, but a carefully calculated one. When the verdict came, it carried the weight of finality. Layla was sentenced to life in prison, her former life of luxury replaced by the harsh reality of confinement. The woman who once graced charity galas and glittering soirees now faded into obscurity behind prison walls. For Karim and Marissa, the end had been merciless. Their affair, once hidden in secrecy, was reduced to ashes. Friends and acquaintances whispered about them in hushed tones, their names forever tied to scandal and tragedy. The story became a warning repeated throughout Dubai's social circles. Beneath wealth and glamour, unchecked jealousy could ignite a fire that consumed everything. What began as a secret passion ended as one of the city's darkest crimes.